The news that just came from Ouagadougou deeply shook the entire world. Burkina Faso's young and brave leader, Ibrahim Traoré, in an extraordinary press conference he organized, revealed to world public opinion the professional assassination attempt against him with all its evidence. The documents in his hand, the 5 captured French agents, and the scandalous details that emerged are of a nature that will upset international balances. It began on a quiet night in Ouagadougou around 2:00 in the morning. Security forces noticed a suspicious minibus. The remaining light inside caught attention. The minibus was like an intelligence center. It contained state-of-the-art listening devices, satellite systems, encrypted radios, and files full of Traoré's photographs. More worrying were the weapons and poisonous substances used by professional assassins. The area was blockaded, thermal. Cameras detected 5 people in an abandoned house 2 kilometers away. The operation began at dawn. The 5 captured individuals carried French passports and their diplomatic identities were fake. Their leader, Pierre Dubois, was a high-level agent of French secret services. Dubois' confessions were shocking. He said they were sent directly, on orders from Paris, to eliminate Traoré. The operation's code name was Restore Order. The plan was detailed. Traoré's movements had been tracked for 3 months. 3 different assassination scenarios had been prepared. Mosque visits, gym, and Independence Day celebrations were targeted when electronic devices were examined. Encrypted correspondence with Paris was found. The operation was being managed from the Eliza Palace. 5 million euros budget had been transferred from Swiss banks. Even more shocking was that Mali leader Goa and Niger leader Chiani were also on the target list. France was planning to eliminate all opposing leaders in the Sahel. When Traoré learned this information, his first reaction was calm but determined. He immediately called the National Security Council to an extraordinary meeting. The ministers and generals attending the meeting were surprised at how cool-headed their leader was. Traoré said, "They want to destroy us, but we will destroy their plans." During the meeting, Defense Minister General Tassum Coulibaly spoke up. "Mr. President, who is behind this attack plan? Is it just France, or are other powers involved too?" he asked. Traoré showed the intelligence reports in his hand. The documents pointed not only to France, but also to some Western companies. Especially the names of companies engaged in uranium and gold mining came up. These companies were uncomfortable with Traoré's nationalization policies. Their annual profits of billions of dollars were at risk. That's why they supported the assassination plan. Thus, companies also had a share in the money transfers. Interior Minister Mohamed Osana was worried. "Mr. President, are there local collaborators too?" he asked. Traoré nodded. "Unfortunately, yes. Some opposition politicians and businessmen are part of this conspiracy. I have a list of all of them. They will all be brought to justice soon." Chief of Staff General Célestin Traoré asked a strategic question. Thus, 5 agents were captured, but there may be others. "How will we increase our security measures?" Traoré answered with a determined voice. "Security experts will come from Russia and China. We will buy modern equipment, and most importantly, our people will be our greatest security shield." The decisions made at the meeting were definitive and historic. All diplomatic relations with France would be immediately suspended. The French ambassador and all diplomatic personnel would leave the country within 24 hours. The captured agents would be tried in the harshest manner, and most importantly, this scandal would be announced to the entire world. The largest hall of the National Palace was prepared for the press conference. Not only national press, but also international news agencies were invited. CNN, BBC, Al Jazeera, Russia Today, CGTN, and journalists from all over the world flocked to Ouagadougou. Everyone was wondering what Traoré would say. When Traoré entered the hall, Behind him was a huge Burkina Faso flag and a portrait of Thomas Sankara. His most trusted guards stood to his right and left. The expression on his face was both angry and determined. When he approached the podium, there was complete silence in the hall. Everyone was holding their breath, waiting. "My dear Burkina brothers, Woot press members, and all world public opinion," he began his speech. "Today, I will show you the dirtiest face of modern imperialism. Today, I will present to you with evidence how we were targeted, how we were wanted to be destroyed." Traoré raised the thick file in his hand. "Here are the documents. Here is the evidence. An assassination plan financed, organized, and managed by the French government. The target is not me. The target is Burkina Faso's independence, Africa's awakening, and our stance against imperialism." The hall suddenly became active. Journalists tried to push each other to get to the front. Camera flashes went off one after another. Traoré continued calmly. 4 days ago, 5 French agents were captured with their weapons, poisons, and assassination plans. Here they are. At this point, the side door opened and the 5 agents were brought in handcuffed. Per Dubois in front, they all looked miserable. The journalists were shocked. Some jumped to their feet. Cameramen competed with each other to get footage. Traoré continued, pointing to the agents. "Here are the gunmen of modern colonialism. Here is the real face of France, which claims to export democracy. These men were sent to kill me, just like they killed Thomas Sankara 37 years ago." The first document appearing on the screen was an encrypted message from Paris. Target confirmed. "Let restore order begin." It said the second document showed money transfers 5 million from Credit Suisse accounts. The third document was a detailed analysis of Traoré's daily schedule. Every Friday, Central Mosque; Tuesday, Thursday Gym; Independence Day celebrations. Great opportunity notes were there. The hall fell into silence. Traoré said, "Every moment of my life was tracked, analyzed where I would be defenseless." "What do this agent say?" was asked. Traoré said, "Will Mr. Dubois tell us, or shall I read it?" Dubois bowed his head. Traoré began reading. "I am Pierre Dubois. I work in French intelligence. I was sent to eliminate Traoré. Orders came from Paris. Our budget is 5 million. African journalists shouted angrily. French colleagues were astonished. Traoré asked for silence. "It's not over yet." He said the new document contained the Operation Continental Restore Plan. Not only me, but Goa and Tishani were also targeted. The fourth phase was the establishment of puppet governments. Traoré shouted, "This is a plan to recolonize all of Africa, but they will not succeed." At this point in the press conference, Traoré made a surprise move. He called Jacques Martin, one of the captured agents, to the podium. Martin approached, trembling. Traoré said, "Tell us, what operations have you been involved in Africa before?" What Martin told horrified everyone in the hall. "I was involved in an operation against Laurent Kabila in Chad. We organized a coup in Ivory Coast. We incited rebellion in the Central African Republic. I was also in Rwanda, but I can't tell." That, Traoré asked, "Why can't you tell?" Martin said, trembling. "Too many people died, too many." The hall was ice cold. Everyone was looking at each other in shock. "Here is France's real history in Africa," said Traoré. "Blood, tears, and exploitation." Martin continued, "I've been working in Africa for 15 years. We carried out operations in Mozambique, Angola, everywhere. Leaders changed, governments fell, but always for the same purpose, to protect France's interests." The Mozambique Beacon journalist in the hall jumped up. "My father died in those operations," he shouted. "You are murderers." Martin bowed his head. "We were carrying out orders," he mumbled. Traoré returned to Martin. "So how much money was spent on these operations?" he asked. Martin thought, "I don't know the exact figure, but each operation cost millions of euros. The annual budget for African operations was over $100 million. This figure had a shocking effect in the hall," Traoré said angrily. $100 million to shed blood, $100 million to destabilize Africa. Here is the real cost of imperialism after. Martin's replacement, another agent, Michael Bernard, asked to speak. I want to speak too, he said. Do you think France will come to save us? No, they will abandon us. We were just pawns. Returning to the press conference, Traoré said, Now I am explaining what we will do. 1. All diplomatic relations with France are severed. 2. The French ambassador and all personnel will leave the country within 24 hours. 3. These 5 agents will be tried for terrorism, he continued. 4. All French companies will stop their activities within a week. 5. All assets belonging to France will be confiscated. 6. Thus, documents will be submitted to the International Court of Justice. 7. The African Union will be called upon to declare France a terrorism supporter. The French journalist spoke again. What if France reacts? If it applies sanctions? Traoré answered laughing. What sanctions? What will they ban? Exploitation, robbery, killing. We are already getting rid of all of these. The American journalist asked, What will be the regional consequences of this incident? Traoré said, with a determined voice. The domino effect has already begun. Our brothers in Mali and Niger will follow the same path. All of Africa will wake up, and colonialism will be buried in history. The Russian journalist asked, Are you worried about your security? Traoré said, I'm not the one who should be afraid. France should be afraid because their game is over, because their true face has been revealed, and because Africa is now uniting against them. While the press conference continued, news from outside showed the seriousness of the situation. An emergency crisis meeting had begun at the Élysée Palace in Paris. French media was trying to deny the incident, but the documents were so clear that denial was impossible. Support messages began to come from all over Africa. Mali leader Aim Goïta said, We are with our brother Trudy. Tomorrow, all French diplomats will be expelled from Mali. Niger leader Chiani made a statement. I was also targeted. France wants to destroy us all. All French bases in Niger are being closed. Guinea leader Doumbouya said we are cancelling all agreements with France. From Sagalif suggested as the African Union, we should declare France a terrorism supporter. Even Chad leader Mohamed Deby remained distant. Support came from Gabon and Cameroon. People poured into the streets. Putin's spokesman from Russia. It said, we condemn France's terrorist activities. We will provide security guarantees if necessary. China made a statement that Africa's sovereignty must be respected. Support messages came from Turkey, Iran, Venezuela, Cuba. Maduro offered oil discounts. Diaz-Canal promised to send doctors and teachers. While the press conference continued, Traoré dropped another bomb. The document I will now show you shows not only the assassination plan, but also the extent of economic exploitation. He said the document appearing on the screen showed how much profit French companies transferred from Burkina Faso annually. The figures were staggering. 2 billion annually from gold mines alone, 1.5 billion euros from uranium, 500 million euros from cotton, Traoré said angrily. You see, this is why they want to kill us. We said stop to this exploitation. We said we want our wealth back, so they tried to kill us, but they failed and they will fail. A journalist asked what will happen to these agents now. Traoré said with determination, they will appear before the court tomorrow. They will be tried for terrorism, for attempting to assassinate the head of state, for espionage. Their sentences will be no less than life imprisonment. The French journalist objected, but they have diplomatic immunity. Traoré asked harshly, what immunity of assassins, of killers, of terrorist agents? There is no such thing and there will not be. At this point, one of the captured agents, Michel Bernard, asked to speak. Trembling, he said, I want to tell everything. France used us and now they will abandon us. We were just pawns. The real criminals are sitting in Paris. Traoré said, Tell us. Bernard began to tell. The operation order came directly from DGSE headquarters. It had the approval of the Eliza Palace. They told us if you fail, we don't know you, but if we succeeded, there was promotion and big money reward. Bernard continued. There are dozens of operations in Africa. Not only leaders, but journalists, activists, student leaders. Everyone is a target. Every method is permissible to silence opposition voices. The list is very long. The hall was again shrouded in silence. Everyone was in shock. Traoré said, "Here is the real face of imperialism, not just economic exploitation, but a policy of physical extermination. But it's over now. This game ends here." Towards the end of the press conference, Traoré addressed the people. "My dear people, this victory belongs to all of us. They could not divide us, destroy us, defeat us. Because we are one, because we are strong, because we are right." The crowd outside enthusiastically applauded Traoré. Shouts of "Long live Tro, long live independent Burkina Faso" rose to the sky. Thousands of young people were singing victory songs, with torches in their hands. Traoré said his final words, "This is just the beginning. Let France and all imperialist powers know that Africa is now awakening. We will determine our own destiny. Our wealth will be ours. Our future will be ours." When the press conference ended, the world would never be the same again. Traoré had not only exposed an assassination attempt, but also initiated Africa's new era. No imperialist power would be able to move comfortably in Africa anymore. The next day, the world press devoted their headlines to Traoré's statements. New York Times, "Earthquake in Africa," Washington Post, France's Dirty Secrets, The Guardian, "The End of Imperialism," Al Jazeera, Traoré, Africa's new leader. Although the French press tried to cover up the incident, it could not succeed. Even Lemon had to come out with the headline, "Serious Allegations." Figaro had the headline, "Diplomatic Crisis," while Liberation wrote, "We are losing Africa." On social media, the hashtag support became #1 worldwide. Millions of people sent support messages to Traoré. Celebrities, athletes, artists, everyone declared they were on Africa's side. Celebrations continued throughout the night on the streets of Burkina Faso. People danced, sang, and lit victory fires until morning. Elders cried and prayed. Finally, we have a real leader. The next morning, the 5 French agents were brought before the court. Thousands of people gathered in front of the courthouse. Slogans of "We want justice," "France will be held accountable," chanted. The court panel decided to arrest the agents. When the trial began, the whole world would watch. The French government tried to backtrack. The foreign minister tried to say in his statement, "There is a misunderstanding. These agents are not related to us." But no one believed it. The documents were there. The evidence was clear. The United States tried to protect its ally fronts. The White House spokesman said, "We call on all parties to be moderate." But this statement was met with anger in Africa. Comments were made that two imperialists are protecting each other. Cracks deepened within the European Union. Spain and Portugal criticized France. Germany preferred to remain silent. Some parliamentarians from Italy sent support messages to Traoré. Ireland said France's African policies should be questioned. Meanwhile, files from the captured agents' computers revealed all of France's dirty operations in Africa. Coup plans, assassination lists, bribery networks, everything was documented. In his second press conference, Traoré had even more striking documents in his hand. What we showed yesterday was the tip of the iceberg. He said, "Now I'm opening France's 50-year crime file to you." The documents he showed illuminated the dark pages of African history. France had a hand in the murders of Patrice Lumumba, Thomas Sankara, Silvanus Olympia. Traoré said these documents show 27 active operations in 13 African countries. The captured agents were telling everything to save their lives. These confessions were being shared with the world. It was a complete disaster scenario for France. The African Union convened extraordinarily in Addis Ababa. 48 of the 53 members condemned France. A decision was made to close all French military bases in Africa. This meant destruction for France.